Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. Just making sure all my stuff's working, the sound seems to be coming through and everything's dandy. Guess who managed to figure out how to set up the weight room on a live chat several days in advance this week? Boy, did that remove a world of stress this evening. So yeah, hello, welcome. Lovely to see you all again. Give me a moment, I want to make sure all my stuff is set up and working. This is so exciting. Found a new way to make these things work without having to stress quite so much on the night. So what can I say? What an amazing crop of pictures. What some wonderful interpretations that people have come up with. Different ways to interpret season. This is really, really great creative thinking, which is of course where eye-catching, interesting images come from. You know, we live in this world of Instagram, of next, move on, move on. If you can actually make someone pause for a minute and look at one of your pictures, you're doing really well. And if you're somebody who sort of watches the challenges from the sidelines but hasn't joined in, please do it. Just jump on in there, because it's where you're going to stretch your creative muscle. It's where you're going to learn to be more creative. It's like if you want to be a great footballer, at some point you've got to come down out of the stands, get onto the pitch and actually kick the ball a lot. And it's the same with photography. So please join in the challenges. There's couple of surprises. Actually, was a surprise this evening, which someone's going to have a surprise, I know that already. But really join in. If you think your photography's not good enough, so what? You know, we're all learners and beginners and experienced in all sorts of different levels, and if you want to find out how to control your camera, light and composition, you know what to do. There's a link in the description area below. Go check out my online courses. Get yourself up to speed. It will cost you less than half the cost of a used lens. Anyway, how wonderful to see you all again. What else have I got on my little list of notes here? Oh, in case you didn't know, because I know we're getting a few new people joining the group, which is wonderful. Welcome to all of you people who haven't been around for a while. In case you didn't know, there is a PLD newsletter which I send out every couple of weeks with highlights from the group. We talk about, you know, the winning image, comments about how the challenge went, challenge notifications and some other good stuff. You can sign up to get that little once every 2 weeks newsletter on the PLD page. There's a link in the description area below. Just go to the photography lockdown page on my website. Pop your email address in there. You'll never miss anything and you get some other good stuff. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who supported PLD this week with small regular donations. That's what keeps this ball rolling. You keep the group alive. You cover the cost of making videos, time spent judging, time spent making live presentations like this one. I'm trying to remember what I've got to say. I want to give a shout out this week to Julia Bevan, Phil Saunders Hall, Steve James and Maribeth Carley. We all owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you very much, and to everybody else who is making some donations. Also just wanted to say it's so exciting to see the tradition you guys have started of donating some of my online courses and place on webinars to others. I just think it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing we've got going on here. It's you guys that make this work. It's you people being kind and open and honest human beings that just works, you know. Fantastic. Please invite any photography friends you have at Camera Club and all the rest of it. Tell them to come along. We've got such a safe, supportive environment. 3,500 photographers and everybody's looking out for everybody's back, and I think that's an amazing thing. Please invite your friends. But think about who you invite. Don't just click the invite button and send it to everyone, because a lot of people may not be interested. Esther has asked me to say a big thank you to you all for coming along to hear him speak last week. All your insightful questions. This time you're stuck with just me again, I'm afraid. But next time we do have another truly inspirational and exciting world-class photographer who specialises in some really interesting stuff. He's going to be joining us to talk about his work and most recent projects in Africa. I'll tell you a bit more about him when we finish this PLD season challenge. So why don't we go and get stuck straight into that? And of course, as usual, I've been talking and I don't actually have my screen set up, mixed and ready. Here we go. I think it is now. Will be in a moment. I must share this screen with you one day and you'll see what I get up to behind the scenes. So here we go. Let's get straight stuck in with Iggy. Iggy Rizu. Great image. Oh, I forgot to say, I'm going to be harsh tonight. I'm going to be nasty Mike. I'm going to be being harsh because some of your images are really, really good. And I'm going to be pushing some of you really hard. If you don't get a mention or a shout out, don't think your picture's bad. It could be a really good picture. It's just, I can't talk about everything. But I'm going to be a bit harsh on some of you tonight. So I'm warning you, but that's what I'm here for. I am your coach. Iggy, you're the first person in the firing line. I like your idea. I do like your idea. I like it, all the little new flowers, and I quite like the little colourful bits of origami going on in there. But there's too much going on. It's difficult to know where to look, and it's also a little bit too bright. I think if you brought that exposure down a bit, it would have helped. Never be afraid to argue with your light meter. Your camera has no clue how bright or dark you want a picture to be. It only knows what its programmers have told it, and that is everything everything equals mid-grey, halfway between black and white. And when it doesn't, it will get the exposure wrong. So whether you did that manually and followed the light meter, or you did it on an auto setting, that shot could do with being a little bit darker. I think it would have helped immensely. Similar thing going on here for another of our regulars. I want to see more of you people who aren't contributing, who aren't joining in here. Come on guys, get stuck in. We've got our hardcore regulars like these guys. Beverly, I like your idea, and I love the way you've spotted this little gentle pool of light going across these different seasonings. What a cool idea. But again, I would suggest to you, think about your exposure. Don't be afraid to argue with your light meter, because the poor old camera doesn't know. I took the liberty of reducing the exposure on your shot just a bit. What do you think, guys? This is a real question. So here's the original, and here with the exposure just reduced a tiny bit. I think it enhances the light and it saturates the colour. Just makes it that little tiny bit stronger. What do you think? What do you think? Pop something in the comment. But I do like your shot, Beverly. I think it's great. But never be afraid to argue with your light meter. Remember that exposure is all part of composition. You're composing a picture, and how bright or dark it is can make an enormous difference to how powerful the picture is. What it is that you want to say with your picture. Mark Racine. We got an interesting sort of thing here with lots of potential. However, I think you're just getting too much in there, Mark. There's too much going on. We're not sure where to look, and you've got that incredibly bright sky. Spend a bit more time just thinking about what it is you're doing and what it is you want to achieve. Again, I took the liberty of messing around with your picture a bit. All I did was crop it, and I think you've got something a bit more interesting going on in there. Now, unfortunately, the light isn't great regardless. It's a very flat light. What would work well with your shot here would be if you had a little bit of light tumbling down those logs at the back, a bit like Beverly has, where she's got that little bit of brighter area, that little bit of light just cutting across those herbs and seasonings. But nonetheless, I like your thinking. Seasoned timber. We've had a few seasoned timbers going on here, which is really rather exciting. Mike Mallet. Great reflection shot. Totally get it. I just think there's a little bit too much going on. Lovely colours, great exposure, all that stuff. But we've kind of got that leading line on the right hand side, which is sort of leading us off to we're not sure, to sort of nowhere. It's taking us away from the reflections. We need something to focus the viewer's attention just that little bit more. Maybe if you'd concentrated on just one reflection, such as, I think it's an oak tree, the larger tree, sort of centre right, of the shot, possibly turn the camera up the other way, maybe just done a shot of the reflection, a little bit of tree trunk above the bank and just the reflection, because sometimes less is more. Less can be a bit more. I'm just checking, having a look at your comments in case anyone is saying anything controversial, and then we could get stuck in. Another piece of beautifully seasoned timber here from Dawn McLean, or McLean, forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce it. And I like the idea, seasoned timber. How awesome is that? And I think it's a light thing. We've got too much going on. We've sort of got this slight conflict. You've used depth of field really well to make us look at the end of the log. But I think there's that slight conflict going on with the trees in the background. A bit of light, maybe possibly if you had sort of more logs going on and a little bit of light sort of happening on them. It's a tricky one to do. I really do know that, because there's loads of these log stacks all around where I live, and I've often had to go at photographing them, and I've never really quite got one that I felt worked. But great creative thinking, great use of depth of field, focal length and all that stuff to sort of bring that together. Now then, I'm going to be really harsh here. Stephen Robson, you've got a beautiful picture, perfectly executed. You've got your exposure spot on, absolutely bang on. With shots like this, it is so easy to burn out those highlights in the movement. You've got your shutter speed nice and slow. You've got the movement, I'd say, nicely. You know, I mean, it's all a question of what you as a photographer want. Some people like tons and tons of movement blur. Some people don't like, you know, so much. I personally tend towards the not so much. I think you've done it really nicely, and the exposure's perfect. Great colours, great front to back sharpness. What's missing for me here is the season bit. I get it, there's that little clump of grass and some sort of slightly yellowed moss, but it's not really, to me, saying so much about the season thing. Beautiful photograph, well composed and technically executed. It's engaging and it's interesting. For me, I'm slightly missing that season bit. I'm keeping an eye on the comments over there just in case I get some comeback, which is cool. But great shot, Stephen. Norrie Anderson. Another lovely little, you know, seasonal photograph, isn't it? You know? I like the little bud. I love the way the light is catching that little bud down in the bottom left. I like the way you've got a single sort of snowdrop singled out against the sort of darker background, and found another one of those little shafts of light. Really, really great job there, Norrie. My criticism is probably it's such a wilty, sad looking snowdrop. If it is a snowdrop, I'm not very good at botanicals, am I? It is a great shot and very well technically executed, very well seen, and good on you for doing that. To me, the most interesting bit is actually that little bud down at the bottom on the left, because it's got that gorgeous little highlight on it. I don't know if you could have got in a little bit closer there. I did warn you guys, I'm being harsh tonight because so many of you are so good at this. It's no good if I just say, oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, is it? You're really good already. So let's see if we can get you even better. Thank you, Michael. It is a snowdrop, or snowbells. Interesting. Ian Pritchard says, yeah, it's tranquil. It is. It is a tranquil shot. Really nice. Jamie Smith. You've got a great feeling of a season going on here. You can really feel that sort of mist. I think that's a beautiful tree. And even though it's amongst a whole bunch of other trees, it totally stands strong. We know which tree this shot is about. I like the muted colours, technically all spot on, great exposure. The bit which I'm going to push you on a little bit is that gate on the lower left. Could we have not had that? Would it be possible to find an angle or a way to get much the same shot, but without that gate. It might not be. I could be talking out of the thing I'm sitting on. But I don't know. To me, that gate is just kind of annoying. I think it either needs to be in there or not in there, not sort of partly in there. Would it have been possible to get up to the fence with a shorter focal length, a wider sort of a lens, and still capture that feeling? Interesting. What do you think, guys, about the gate? Mary Sue Voss says she likes the gate. It must stay. Oh yeah, Alec Murray likes the gate too. Gate needs to be there. Lots of likes for the gate. Cool. The gate invites you in. I'm definitely on the baddie side tonight, aren't I? Ash, you're late. Go and stand in the corner. Interesting comments. It draws the eyes, isn't it? Yeah, I think it either needs more gate and possibly closer to the gate. Could you use that gate and that fence more as a sort of a leading line, more to the right of the shot, and then have the tree to the left? I just find the gate bit doesn't work, and I get it, and many of you disagree with me. But it's a lovely shot, Jamie. Nonetheless, well executed, well spotted, and I do get the feeling of the change of a season. I'm just giving you a hard time. Dan Murray. I photographed many weddings in that church over my time. Top of Lyndhurst High Street, isn't it? I think you've got a really interesting thing going on here as well. You know, I love your yellow and blue. Your daffs are, of course, saying season. The daffodils poking their little heads up as they do. Yellow and blue, they work really, really well. Love seeing your lady sitting there in the sunshine as well. What I'm thinking is, it's just how she's sitting. I'm being harsh on you too. I told you I'm being nasty tonight. I'm being harsh on you too. I just feel she could be closer. It looks as though it's someone you know. If you're here, Dan, please tell me. Please tell us. But it looks to me like it's someone you probably know. Might be a complete stranger, I don't know. It feels to me, I don't know, if she was closer to the flowers, if there was more of a relationship, I think it could work really well. I don't know, almost if she was sort of going to pick a daffodil or something. Hello, Emma. The woman is a random. Interesting. I can't see Dan. I don't know why I've still got my hand in the air there. I forgot to put it down. Dan. I don't know her. I just grabbed the shot. Thanks, Dan. Interesting. And good on you. Good on you. I don't know. What could I say? Maybe slightly longer focal length looking over there. I don't know. I feel it needs something and I'm not entirely sure what it is. But good on you, Dan. It's still a really cool season shot. Mary Sue Voss says she'd have left her out. Interesting. Walking up the church path. Excuse me, madam, would you mind getting out of this churchyard? I want to take a picture of the daffodils. Yeah, I like the angle too, Russ. I think it's really cool. I'm just looking at your comments and trying to respond to a few as they sort of come through. Without the branches on the right, says Cheryl. I don't mind the branches. I quite like a little bit of a twig in the corner of a picture being a nuisance. But yeah, interesting shot. This one as well. Let's move on to Andy Maynard. I think. I can't see at all tonight. I've spent so much time staring at the computer this week. Probably doing 10 hours a day in front of the horrible thing, but never mind. That will all be spoken about later. Andy Maynard. You've got some lovely colours. You've worked well with your focal length and your lenses and your aperture and your depth of field to sort of separate things out, you know, to make us look in the right place. I like the way you framed the church in the background between the trees. I like the way you're down so low. We've got those little bits of fuzziness where those little bits of grass are coming up right in front of the lens. I do, however, think you could possibly lose a little bit from either side, just a bit. And also on my screen at least, and I've looked at this very, very carefully, it might be Facebook, it might not, I don't know, but to me it doesn't look as though it's quite sharp. I could be mistaken. But anyway, finger time, guys. Let's have a look. I'm just going to suggest, let's just take it just across the edges and just lose maybe half of the trees on either side, because I think it focuses in on the flowers much, much better. Just kind of remove just a little, about half a tree on either side. That's all. I'm being harsh. Told you, I'm being nasty tonight. I'm just reading some comments here just to see what people think, what people say, because you know your opinion is valid too. You know. Simon's saying, am I suggesting a square crop? Not necessarily. What I would be inclined to do is leave it, you know, oblong like that, but I'd just increase the focal length a little bit more and move back, because when you increase the focal length, you're going to narrow down the field of view and you could probably lose half those trees. I really like the way it works like that. Works as a square crop too. I'm lazy, I tend not to crop things, but I just think a bit more focal length, move back a little bit more, and you'll narrow that field of view. And then you could lose that off the edges. That's all I'm suggesting. Oh yeah, Dan just said, oh, just crop it a bit, you know, top and sides, and then you'd sort of end up with the same thing. There are many ways to reach Rome. Dina Peters. Oh, I looked at this so much because I like it so much. And I feel really uncomfortable with this because it totally says a season, doesn't it? I mean, you can't mistake that. And there's something lonely and isolated about it. And I don't know what it is. To me, I feel it needs something, and I don't know what. I feel it just needs a little bit something. And I can't put my finger on what that something is, which is why I've included it. I want you to see that I am uncomfortable about not really knowing what I think. I welcome your comments because I do love it. Lobster, yeah, that's true. I do love it. It's in great light. It's technically perfectly executed, nice level horizon, careful composition. There's some lovely pastel colours going on. I just feel it's lacking quite the impact it should have, and I don't for the life of me fully understand why. I really don't. As I told you, I'm being harsh tonight on everybody. Boat wreck in the foreground, nice one, Paul. We'll organise one. Thanks, Annette. A twig in the corner, perhaps. I do like it. Please don't think I don't, people, because I do. Hey, Dina. I thought the same thing. I couldn't figure out either. That's really cool. I love that. That's really cool because it's a great shot. It really is. It's technically perfect. Lovely colours, like the sky, like that little flash of blue. I like the angle you've shot from. You've been so careful composing it. And this happens sometimes. You've got all those ingredients and it's so close, and you just feel it should be a little bit more better. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking arse. I mean, of course, it's all subjective. We don't really know, do we? We don't really know. Heather Hay, that is a really good one. A solitary bird in the sky. You know what? I think something like that could work. A little flock of birds up in the right-hand corner. I told you, I'm being really harsh this evening. I'm being, you know, evil. I think you're right. If you know, I mean, how long would you have to wait for a few little birds to come through? Or a bird? I don't know. Something. I'm not sure. Sam's just suggesting a seagull on the trap. Not sure. I think it'd be too strong and a bit heavy over on the left. It might fall over. Yeah, I think if there's a little, just doesn't have to be big. Just, you know, little just a few birds flying through in the top right against that cloud. Something like that is probably what would do it. Anyway, really appreciate your comments, and it's really interesting to look at what everybody thinks. And this is what this group's all about, isn't it? It's about creative thinking up what could work. I still love your shot, Dina. I like everybody's stuff. I'm going to be really harsh here again too. I feel rotten. Alan Baxter, what a fantastic moment. How could I not bring this picture up? What a fantastic moment. I just really love it. If you're here, Alan, I'd love to know a little bit of background. Woman shoots geese in local park, shock. I think it's just really amusing, the whole thing. What a perfect thing to capture. Look at that. You've got that little pool of light on the woman. You've got the geese in that same pool of light. It's just like there's quite a lot going on, but that light is telling us exactly what this photograph's all about. We totally get it. It's great. I don't know what I can say. It's kind of like, do I feel seasoned in here? I think that's probably the question. That's my critique. That's all. It is a great photograph. I'm not knocking. I'd be really, really proud if that was one of my own. I really would. I think it's a great shot, Alan, and I just had to show it to people because, you know, it's so well executed. Great exposure. Everything's all nicely lined up, and you still caught a great little moment. Flappy goose action. Fantastic. This is a shot I really, really like too. From Craig Edmonton. Because, you know, you look at those great colours. You've got those lovely soft pastel colours. Beautiful soft light which just works. I don't know, let's have a look on this screen, see if I can read it. Living stones. I don't know what these are called. If you're here, Craig, I'd love to know what these plants, or someone can say exactly what these plants are. I would love to know. But you know, great details. It's a really nice shot. You're concentrating the viewer on where you want them to look. Love that kind of toothy mouth look on whatever they are. My critique, and I'm going to do the thumb trick a bit, I think. That pinky colour in the background, there's a bit too much of it. I mean, they're good complementary colours, the sort of reddy tones and the greeny tones, they do kind of work together. I just feel it's just a little bit too much of it. Hi Irene Carson, succulents. Yeah, I gathered they were, I just wondered what they were. I just think there's a little bit too strong. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there at all because those colours sort of work, but I just feel it's a bit too strong. I don't know, could you somehow got a slightly different angle or moved something so there wasn't quite so much of it? Lithops plants. Ah, thanks Craig, good to see you. Interesting. They are interesting. I've never seen anything like it. I think it's an amazing plant. You can't even imagine it's going to bite you. But anyway, yeah, that's the only thing, Craig. I just think somehow, I don't know if you could have moved it, angled it slightly differently. Maybe not quite so much pink. I think this is really kind of interesting. Mayalen Mogstad. I'm looking on the other screen because it's just a bit bigger. I do think it's interesting, and I think it's intriguing. I mentioned just now we live in this world of Instagram, which is next, and this is something which made me keep coming back to it. I found it intriguing. Would I look at that and go, what a beautiful, amazing, stunning picture? No, but I do think it absolutely captures the imagination. It brings about a question: what's going on here? And I really, really like it, May. It's not actually Photoshopped, Sean. It says in the description it's a multiple exposure, I think. I think it did say that. I could be wrong. I can't see from here. But I find it really intriguing. I just think there's possibly just a tiny bit too much going on. The yellow fern is almost kind of just a little too strong, or the yellow bracken or whatever it is. I kind of do get the seasony feeling. I almost get a feeling of passing of the seasons. I think it's really interesting. If you're here, Mayalen, it would be really interesting to find out. I think you said it was a multiple exposure. In-camera multiple exposure. Thanks, Russ. I thought I saw that somewhere, which is, again, a very skillful thing to do. Multiple exposure to expose the same frame, if you like, twice at different exposures, and remember where the different elements of the previous exposure are, so you get things in the right place. It's a very, very skillful thing indeed. Great shot, mate. I just wonder, I think there's just a tiny bit too much going on, but I still nonetheless salute you. It's really intriguing. Patsy Fairclough, another of our big time regulars. Made me smile. I do like the happy seasons. And I quite like your little group of people there. I'm not sure you needed the spot colour thing. I know you're going to throw mud at me, you all will, because so many people like spot colour, and I know I don't. But I don't know that it needed it. I really don't. I quite like the happy seasons, I quite like the building. That's really all I had to say about it. Be cool if you could have captured a little bit of interaction with those people and the camera, or between them, rather than just as they sort of went past. But I do like it nonetheless. Interesting comment from Lindy. Not sure where to look. Sean's referring to the last shot, in-camera Photoshop then. Yeah. Anyway, back to where we are. Patsy. I don't know. I just feel a bit of interaction between the people, and I'm not sure you necessarily needed spot colour. And by the same vein, I think that you've got lots of potential here, Kevin Coffey. Again, I think it looks too obvious. The spot colour made this one too obvious. It's kind of like, look, and I get where you're going. I totally get it. Using the de-icer, the safe salt stuff and the yellow package, but forgive me, it just looks a little bit too staged. And I think the spot colour is kind of emphasising the staged look to me. Could you have done it more like it's a bit of litter? I don't think you needed the... And by the way, look, if you wanted a bit of post-production and just help the colour of a thing out so that it stands a bit, but do it subtly, those are my thoughts. But I just think, I don't know, would this work? You've got the snow, you've got the sidewalk, the pavement going on there. Maybe if it was more like a bit of litter on the pavement. If you ever watch BBC Top Gear, there's a device they use a lot on their films. You'll see, I don't know, a crushed beer can just lying in the gutter, and then the car goes woof past, and they just use this little thing in the foreground. And it's a device that works really, really well. I just wonder if that could have worked quite well here. Ken Harmon just asked, are you sure it's spot coloured? Good point, good question. On my screen, do you know what? I've just noticed there is a tiny, tiny hint of a blue going on in there. Maybe I'm mistaken. There is a little tiny hint of blue. I didn't notice that before. However, I take back the spot coloured thing, but I still think the positioning of the bag, if it was more like, someone has been salting the pavement, the sidewalk, and somehow the bag's blown away, or they've just chucked it on the ground, I think that might have worked. Possibly a bit better. Now here's the thing. What could be more spring than a couple of little bar lambs running around? And that's so well captured, Julia. You've really caught a little happy moment going on there. Beautifully backlit. I really like the way they're backlit. Look at that lovely bit of rim light just sort of curling round, wrapping their bodies as, we look towards these little spring lambs running around and playing in the field. How can you not like it? It is. Sean just said it's a sweet shot. You're right, it is. Totally get it. Kevin said it was spot colour. I was thinking more about season. Anyway, sorry, moving on. Really great shot. I don't know if you shot this with a long lens, Julia. I'm just thinking, I'd love to see a little bit more space around them, that's all. It's a really close shot, it's tight, and I'm not seeing anything wrong with that. This is just a personal preference. Maybe a little bit more space around them. that sort of would possibly give it that feeling of freedom of running around in a field in the spring, you know. They're all new to this world and excited, which I think is really rather cool. Hey Julia, 300 millimeters. You did really well to hold that and capture that at 300 millimeters and just follow them. That was really cool. My coaching, give them a little bit more space if you can. I know, not easy, because they probably ended up coming so close, you're trying to follow with the zoom and the little buggers have filled up your frame. Nice capture nonetheless. Ooh, this one's got loads of good things going on in it. Jolla. What gorgeous light on those snowdrifts. From what I can see on where I'm watching the live over here on my other screen, it's muting the colours on this screen. They're much more pronounced, much more vibrant. Have a look at it in the album. We've got these lovely pinky tones which are just caressing through the snow. On my other monitor over there, it's kind of missing. It's wintry, it's seasonal, I really do like it. You've got some lovely gentle light wrapping around and putting shapes on there. Beautiful snowdrifts. My criticism is, I'd like to, I get it, you're focusing in on those trees. I just think you could do with actually a little bit more sky. Just maybe just a little tiny bit more, only a little bit, I'm not talking much. It's just where the tops of those two trees in the middle are cut off and possibly the ones on the left, because you have got that lovely pinky sky. And I just think it would work to make more of it. I think the two just sort of work. Simon's saying too much sky, question mark. I think with the colours that are in that sky, it works. I think you could do with a little tiny bit more, but that is really, really beautiful. David de Geneva. I get where you're going with it. I like your idea. It's tax season. We've seen a couple of these, haven't we? I like your idea. I do get it. We've got to pay. My feelings are it's a little bit over contrived. That's all. Just a little bit over contrived. Also, I think if we're going to do this, I mean, somehow that big white mug and the handle is just too strong. I don't really think you need it there. It doesn't quite work. Forgive me, David. What does it need? It would need some nicer light. Maybe not a white mug. Yeah, it just has the feeling of being a little bit over contrived for me. But I know, I get it. I like your creative thinking. That's what this is all about. And this is what I mean when I say to anybody, any of you guys who hasn't been joining in, who've been sitting back and watching from the sidelines, afraid I'll say something harsh about your picture. It is all coming with the best of intentions as to try and help you grow and come up with something else, you know. Just get stuck in and join in. But thank you, David, for entering that one. Andres, Tony, I wish I could pronounce your name. Let me come up here. Andrei Tony Poknuski. I bet I said that wrong. Forgive me. I get it. It's the season to be going out and planting stuff in the garden. It's the season to be getting the garden ready for summer. But I just feel you got just a little bit too much happening here. I think you could have possibly lost, I would say, going as a square crop. But I mean, you don't have to go square. I just think you just could have gone in closer and a little bit tighter. We've got a nice bit of interaction happening. I quite like the colours. I like the red of the woman's cape and the greenery going on around there. There's possibly a bit too much truck. I think the action is happening between the woman in red and the guy who's sort of got the bags, the guy behind, you know, the counter, if you like. Maybe you could come in a bit closer, something like that. But well spotted. It's a nice idea. It is a nice idea. What have we got here? We've got dragon. I like your idea. Again, a little spring shoot going on. I like the last little bits of snow sort of sitting on the side and this little bit of sunshine. to me, unfortunately, the bit which kind of stands out and says spring isn't quite sharp, and the other bit is. Something else I just think less could be more for you as well. Maybe for a bit lower down. I don't know if you could get it in focus. You might not be able to. Of course, all lenses are different. But if you could maybe come down a little bit and just get that little shoot, that little shoot that's in the sunshine. Maybe look through it more. It's a difficult one to do. But you've spotted some great light. You've spotted that differential between the snow in shade and the light on those little bits of greenery. I think there's just a little bit too much greenery going on all at the same time. There's too many things happening. We've got another tax thing here. I told you I'm being nasty tonight, from Karen Toy Downs. You've executed this very well. You have executed this well. I think black and white kind of works. I don't know. Again, to me, I feel there's something not quite there. And to me, I'm being harsh. And of course, this is only my opinion. It doesn't mean this is law, not by a long, long shot. I find that the hand just somehow a little bit too heavy. I'm being harsh. I told you I'm being harsh. And again, it's only my opinion. It's not real. It's just thoughts blowing around behind my head. Love the fact you use black and white. It does work. And tax is a gloomy subject, isn't it? I like this much better than actually paying the taxes, says Mary Suvoth. Yeah, I get that. It is a great shot. I don't know. I just maybe a little bit more of the face, something like that. I don't know. It just feels a little bit heavy on the hand to me. That's all. I could be talking nonsense. As I say, these things are only opinions. And I'm being Mr. Nasty tonight. Sarah Rogers. I get your feeling here with the season. Yeah, we got the yellowy grass and all that stuff. We got the very grey sky and those three little trees. The thing is that what that sky is taking over, is taking control. These sorts of things can work, but only when you get a gap in the clouds where you can get a bunch of light to hit the three trees so that they sort of pop out a little bit more against the gloomy background. I get it. It feels cold. It feels wintry. I just think it doesn't quite work. It may have worked better, possibly, if you could have gone lower, maybe shot through the grass, looking more up at the sky, because then those sort of bare, rather dull feeling trees would sort of stand out more because they were against the sky. But I get where you're going. Now, there's loads of good things going on here, Chris. And again, I really like it. It's the maple syrup season out there in Canada land. Fantastic. What wonderful stuff maple syrup is too. I saw a program about how you guys harvest and farm it. Fascinating. Fascinating. No wonder it's expensive. You got really lovely light coming through that maple syrup, and I don't know if I'm seeing this so beautifully on this monitor and it looks so dull on the other one. But you have got some lovely colours and some lovely light. I like the little glinty highlight on the cap. I think it's great, and I just want to put some of it on that biscuit. My thing is, I think you could have made more of the light coming through that gorgeous golden syrup and with your little embossed bottle. The other thing is where the shadow is sort of cut off. I think the shadow belongs with the bottle. I feel that the two are kind of, they're interlinked, and to me I feel like it's a shame it was cut off. That shadow coming towards the camera I think would work. Maybe just move back a tiny little bit and see if you could include a little bit more of it. You could take I think your gap at the top's all right. Just let's include some more. Let's give it a little bit more space. Let's see that gorgeous colour and the light coming through the bottle. Maybe just a slightly lower angle could have helped. Of course, I don't know, you might have got the window. Had you lowered your angle, you'd have suddenly got the window in shot, or however you lit it. But all of the shadow would have helped. Keep the bottle near the top, bring the shadow in the bottle, because again, it's putting that lovely golden light onto the surface that it's standing on. How are we doing? Oh, we're doing all right. Anita Green, I I see where you're going with this one as well. It's sort of springtime and, you know, a field of hope. Spring is always a time of hope. And I kind of really like that discarded mask just sort of looped around a daffodil, which kind of makes it current. The only thing is here, I'm not quite sure where we're meant to be looking. There's a little bit going on. I know the sign is very dominant, but because the sign isn't sharp, I'm not sure. Are we thinking about the mask or the sign? And also that very bright sky. The sky could work. Maybe if you came round a little bit. I love the little mask, but I find it just slightly confusing. Not quite sure where we're meant to look. It's one of those things which I think could have probably worked well with full front to back sharpness all the way through the whole lot, because everything is pretty strong and kind of relevant. I think it's one of those things. There's a few comments coming in, interestingly, going, people not sure about the mask. What do you think? I feel like the mask and the sign were the name of the field. It's an interesting juxtaposition. Powerful story, says George. Interesting. Iglo, Marie Curie, 2 times Nobel Prize winner. Yeah. By the way, everybody, Iglo's a doctor. She knows stuff. Hate discarded masks, says Jared. Don't we all? I mean, one of the massive disasters of the whole COVID crisis is the incredible amount of environmental damage being done by disposable masks. I don't have a disposable mask. I have washable masks because I will not buy things like that. But anyway. Anyway, there we go. Interesting to see a few comments there. I feel that could have done with a bit more sharpness all the way through. The bright bit in the corner is a bit of a problem, but I don't mind because of the style, the sort of image we've got going on here. Dave Hansen, you made us laugh. I just think it's funny and it's quirky and it's fun. Having been someone who used to keep hens myself, I do like hens. They're just such funny, friendly little creatures. I think they're great. And I think you caught a really cool, humorous picture here. She's seasoning herself with rosemary. I just think it's really funny. And it's so hard to photograph chickens. If you have ever tried to photograph chickens, it's not easy. I've always thought that. I was always trying to photograph mine. I never quite got it. I think you got a great shot going on here. I love your thought. I love the hens eating rosemary and self-seasoning itself. The colours, the red and the green, they work really, really well. And I'm just being harsh on you because I can imagine this is a real difficult one. So I just think a little bit of tilt up, maybe a little bit more chicken, or maybe a little bit less off the bottom, and then I think it would work as a real tight shot. Let's just do that thing. Let's just take a little tiny piece out. Yeah, I think maybe a little bit less off the bottom, and then it does work as a real tight shot. The bottom's just a bit too much. I told you, I'm being nasty tonight. I'm being real harsh. But what a great shot. What a great shot. What do we got next? We've got Vim Decker. This is a lovely moody atmospheric thing. I love the reflections and the gentle colours. You know, we've got really only a couple of colours going on in this, and those sorts of things work very, very well. I'm wondering, because I love all the little tufts and those reflections. Technically, perfectly executed, exposed, all that sort of stuff. You know, Vim, you're one of the regulars, you know how to do that stuff. It's not up for question. I find that pillar very strong. Now, a pillar, breakwater, the log, the timber, whatever it is. And I feel like I want to see all of it. I know I say this a lot, it's just me, but I feel like I want to see all of it. Now, I don't know if that goes off into the distance for miles and miles and miles, or whether it is, you know, sort of comes to an end. If it comes to an end, I think having that square block included in its entirety to the left of the shot kind of works. I feel uncomfortable because it's sort of cut off, and I did wonder whether or not it would work to concentrate just on this bit, because I think that's a really beautiful, gentle little pastel part of your picture. Yeah, I saw a couple of someone said, is it overexposed? Well, I wouldn't say it's overexposed. It's foggy, it's hazy, but also there's not really any such thing as overexposed if you want it to be that bright. This is the thing. The exposure is part of composition. Just because a camera says that's too bright doesn't mean it's overexposed. I have seen many awesome pictures where the background is completely burnt out. There is no detail there, which technically would mean overexposed, but the photo was strong and powerful because of it. Remember, exposure is part of your composition. How bright or dark do you want it? And if it's done intentionally for a reason and it works, I don't see a problem with it personally. Anyway, back to Vim's picture, because I do love it. I do love it. I should have added a bit more on the top to keep the aspect ratio. But I think you've got a great shot here. I don't dislike that square thing. If it goes a little way and stops, I'd like to see all of it in there. I do like, yeah, somebody else, who said that? I like both. Yvonne, I agree with you. But I do think, you know, I kind of like this little bit too. What do we got here? Let's move on to Paul Lynn, because, you know, this is the sort of stuff I can get quite excited about, isn't it? I like a bit of documentary storytelling. Whole other interpretation on Season of Discontent. Who wouldn't be living, you know, there like that? It's one of the subjects that's pretty close to my heart, isn't it? This sort of thing. I like where you're coming from. I like your storytelling about the apartments, and then this person living in their little shanty shack in the shadow of the apartment building by the side of the road or something like that. Let's have a quick look. Where are you? Oh, you're in South Africa. Yeah, did wonder. I think it's a powerful picture, and I think it could tell a story. It is just a little bit busy, but I think the main thing that makes it not quite work is the person sort of with bending over away from you. This is the sort of shot which I think could work very well if you could do it as a portrait, as a street portrait. Whether or not you could engage with this person, have a conversation, ask them if you could do a street portrait. So if they were quite strong in the foreground, and then behind them you can see their little shanty shack, they wouldn't be so lost in amongst some of the busyness. But to me, it's the position of that person. I think if they were stronger in the picture, then the busyness would support them. Whereas as it stands, it's just kind of, they're a little bit lost in there. But I love this sort of thing, Paul. Right, so where have we got to now? We're going into my shortlist shout-outs. When I do the judging on these, if you haven't been here before, I tend to just, anything which really grabs my attention, they all go into one folder, and then I slowly have to take images out until I'm left with just 5 runners-up and a winner. If your picture hasn't appeared yet, and maybe doesn't appear again, I just want to say, it doesn't mean you're taking bad pictures, it doesn't mean anything of the sort. Chances are it's a good picture, it's just I can't talk about everything, and I'm trying to choose images which will help the most people. I wonder if Mr. Tom Oswald is here. You here, Tom? Tom Oswald, Clicker Snap boss. You know, Tom's really coming on quite a bit. I liked this. I just liked it. It's cheeky. It is cheeky. My coaching to you, Tom, is you could have probably lost a little bit around the edges, but there's something cheeky about the way that bee has got a glint in its eye and is just climbing up those stamens. And to me, it just feels very spring-like. That feeling of having bees buzzing around again is just an awesome thing. Are you here, Tom? I hope he's missed it. He was going, you talked about me last night and I wasn't there. But I do like it. And, you know, something I really respect with Tom. Tom's an engineer and he loves all the technical stuff, but he's really been taking on his creativity stuff lately, and it is really moving on in leaps and bounds. It's a nice capture, Tom. I do like it. Here's another one that I just love. Look at this gorgeous little pool of light here, Cheyenne. You capture that lovely little pool of light. Now, I know that those little snowdrops are sort of, their heads are almost colliding with that bright bit of sky. But because of that gorgeous little pool of light, it still works. It's a light, gentle, it's a little pool of gentle brightness, sort of in the darker surroundings of the trees and the woods and the ground. It's a very, very seasonal feeling shot. And I really do. I like it a lot. I think it's a great shot. Oh, of course, Jules Vids, you are Cheyenne Morgan, aren't you? This is one of the things with these things, isn't it? I always get confused by who's who. Our resident, flamboyant, George Stevenson, who's always making us laugh and coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas. I had to give you a bit of a shout out, didn't I, George? I know we see you often, but it's just fun, you know? I love the way you bring so much fun to these things, you know? You put so much work into it. I love the way you've highlighted and spotlit your Spice Girls. I just think it is so funny. It is great. I totally got it the minute I saw it. I just think it's great fun. Nicely done, George. What more can I say? This one, I somehow really get. Spring's coming and it's time for a walk in the park. Just totally get it. Maurizio. Yeah, I really get it. I like the sort of the pale sky and the long shadows and just the way we kind of led off through that picture. Isn't it strange how sometimes these things look messy and sometimes they just don't? But I just really like this. I am going for a walk. This would work so well with, you know, on the challenge we did last time, PLD walk. Because this really does have the feeling of going for a walk in the changing of the seasons, in the spring. Really nice, engaging shot, Maurizio. And here's one of those things from Ahmed Babas, which is like, you know, we say it's too busy. Well, here we go. Here's a really busy picture and it works. It's like you've got such simple colours. There's not too many colours going on. And it's one of those things, even though the eye isn't necessarily drawn to one place, because of the uniformity and the repeating patterns going on there, the eye can dance around and skip around like a bee or an insect, and it doesn't matter. And that's something which I think is great. This would make a great picture on the wall. A great shot, really well captured. Technically, it's obviously perfect. Been very careful to get totally square, straight on, looking down. A great shot. Chris Britton just said it would make a great puzzle. It would. That would make a great... You think how difficult a jigsaw puzzle like that would be to complete with all those repeating patterns. Great shot, Ahmed. I think it's beautifully done. Oh, look, you're all coming up with ideas now. Fabric patterns, postcards. Eric. We like your stuff, don't we, Eric? This is why I want more of you who are not joining in to join in, because obviously I'm drawn to certain styles, and we do have our little group of, you know, obviously more experienced and capable photographers, and they do make appearances quite often because I want to share with you some of the things they're doing and just talk about them. But come on, those of you who are not joining in, we want to see more of your stuff. We want you to come and show these people what it's all about. Come on, just join in, just get in there. Just get in there. Eric Devergen, I wish I knew how to pronounce your name, Eric, because it's such a cool name. But what a great picture. You know, I do get it. It's a sort of a wintry sky and you know, the stilts and the little fishing shack. I've seen these, I've been there. I know these little, what are they called? Carolet. Beautiful area down there, beautiful area. I just think it's a really lovely shot. You know, the shapes. Look at that net hanging underneath, that dark net, and the way it's catching the light, the bit of sunset, the wintry sort of grey sky, and where the tide's out, those bits of reflections, all these little tiny pieces, these little fragments of ingredient coming together. Deverne, is it pronounced Deverne? Sorry, I shouldn't have been reading that. I'm not sure what you're on about, Annette. Sorry, Phillida. Yeah, all those verticals, all those shapes, all those colours, the way the light's catching it, these are the things which just work. This is one of those shots. Again, I know I'm a negative space junkie. I like lots of space, but to me it just works because the bit which engages this, of course, is the little fishing, you know, shelter at the top. That little shed, that little doorway, what's in the doorway. And it's got the space, it's just the space is filled with all the supporting elements of the uprights and the water and that little band of sunset and that lovely dark fishing net just hanging down underneath. I think it's a great shot, Eric. Beautifully done. Another of our regulars, Dan. You know, how simple. And yet it does, again, just say season. And again, it just shows, you know, what you can do indoors. It's a very simple shot, made of three colours if you include the white. But again, it's seasonal. You know, the autumn leaves are starting to crumble and sort of blow away. They become really brittle. And now we're starting to get the shoots. The onions are starting to shoot. They're starting to come out of the ground, you know, in a short time. There'll be some spring onions poking about. Philip Gray. I love this. There's just happiness and joy in the skiing season here, isn't there? It's fast and it's dynamic. We're getting the fun of the ski season. Absolutely awesome. I think it's just a really nice shot. I know I love these sorts of things, but yeah, nice one, Philip. I like that. A lovely, cold, minimalist sort of thing going on here from Ian Robb. That cold, wintry morning sky and those stunted flat top trees, I find them really quite fascinating. You've got those lovely little layers of three going on. Sky, and then the middle ground, and then the foreground. And then we've got the sort of three clumps of tree, 1, 2, 3. So we've got 3 vertical, 3 horizontal. Now don't get hung up thinking that's another rule of composition if you're kind of struggling with these concepts, because these things often get noticed afterwards, maybe during the composition bit. 3 is a powerful number and it kind of works well, but that wintry bit of sunlight coming through that cold, frosty, misty, moist morning, beautifully done. Nice one, Ian. We've got a lovely repeating pattern from Lindy Beaton here. I mean, we've all seen this, haven't we? We've all looked out across the rooftops. Well, we haven't all looked out across the rooftops and seen frost. That's a very, very arrogant thing to say, because not all of us live in places where you get frost in the morning. But I do love it. Just that repeating pattern. It's like the flowers we were looking at earlier, Ahmed's flowers. We got that repeating pattern and that little bit of light just catching that cold frostiness over the top. I think it is another great interpretation of a season. Stella, you did a great job with seasoning. Much better than I did when I was crumbling things into my fried chicken. You know, it's just a really simple but beautifully done still life in the kitchen. You know, we're looking at fruits and veg and seasoning. What more is there? It's just beautifully done. You've got lovely flat light. You've got beautiful little catch lights going on the edges of the peppers. I like the way the light is wrapping around that clove of garlic. It's just really well executed. I think it's a beautifully done shot. Phillida Ackworth, I really like this one too. It's just like I can feel what it's like to be in the kitchen in spring. And it's just so cool. This is one of the things about cutting off shadows. Shadows are part of the picture, and this is so cool because you've got the sunlight streaming through the window, but it's not ruining anything. We can see the window where it's coming from. I really get that feeling of walking into the kitchen on a spring morning when the sun's shining through that bunch of daffs and the backlight through the daffodils is just bringing out their textures, bringing it to life. And the shadows are kind of what really make it work. Lovely shot, Phillida. So many lovely shots this time. There were just so many. Linda O'Neill, look at this in the woodland. Look at that lovely bit of sunshine. I think you're very brave. I like the way you've clipped it onto the edge of the frame. And I know I've been saying to people, oh, it's a shame you cut off that piece of wood in the water and all these sorts of things. But to me, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that little starburst of sort of cold spring sunshine coming across these newly opening bulbs is just a great feeling. It looks like there's a farmhouse or something going on. It's very much a sort of a woodlandy thing. But again, great shot. Technically perfectly executed, you know, the exposure's spot on, the lighting's just right, as we have seen on all of these. Another very moody and atmospheric thing from Chris Anderson, you know. I love the way this sort of winds and twists and those shafts of light coming through the trees. You get the feeling of that sort of, there's still moisture in the air. Now, of course, normally I'd be saying what I always say, oh, it's a shame there isn't someone walking down the road, because I like that stuff. But it doesn't matter. It's kind of, we've got these lovely rolling curvy shapes and we're just kind of wandering off down the lane. It's another PLD walk, actually. It's almost like, I can feel what it's like to walk down that road, can't you? I don't know what you guys think. But I can feel it. You've really captured that late winter, early spring sunshine. There's still moisture and it's still cold. Really well captured, beams of light, absolutely splendid. Kerry Taylor Farmer. I liked your interpretation on this one. I really do. The new look, the new fashion season is upon us, and I think it works that you shot that in black and white. I think it's fun. I like the dresses. I like those repeating patterns on the dresses. I just think there's so many things in this I like, and I really like the reflection of the houses on the other side of the street and that sort of dark, moody sky that's going on above. Yeah, okay, you wouldn't look at that and go, wow, what a stunningly beautiful picture. Maybe like, you know, some of the forest shots and the mist coming through the trees, but it doesn't mean, you know, there are places for all sorts. I get this because I just find it humorous and interesting, and it's a comment on where we are right now. I think it's, I like that. I think it's a great interpretation, Kerry, and it absolutely caught my you know, imagination, my interest. Crystal Craig, I just thought this was really good fun too. Yeah, no, I'm a biker, and I can't remember who it is who's going to say motorbikes are boring. I'm going to watch and wait for this comment because I can't remember which one of you says it. And I just think it's a well-captured shot. You've got some really interesting light going on, Crystal, and you've just caught a great little moment, you know, that moment of bending down and turning on the petcock and all the rest of it. And another thing, it's Glyn. Hello, Glyn. It's not because it's a motorbike, by the way. I think I like the positioning. There are things about this I like. The light, the use of black and white, and of course that ridiculous crash helmet. I saw someone wearing one of these the other day and I was really quite, what? But anyway, I just think it's a well caught picture. I like the shapes, the position of the rider. If they were just like pumping gas or whatever, I don't think it would work at all. But I do think it's an interesting shot. You do make me laugh, Glenn. Forgive me, I couldn't remember it was you that always accuses me of being boring about motorbikes. Motorbikes in themselves are boring, by the way, I would say that. Lots of my mates sit around talking about, have you seen the new this, and that's got 5 gears, and that. I've no idea what they're talking about. I'm exactly the same with motorbikes as I am with cameras. I'm not interested in cameras in the slightest. They're boring pieces of useless junk. I'm only interested in what you can do with them. And it's the same with motorcycles. I love the feeling of riding one, of being part of the environment, of smelling the hedgerows, of feeling those little changes of temperature as you're riding along and just feeling it dance and move underneath me in the sunshine. I don't ride main roads, I only ride back roads. Anyway, enough of that. Jane Barnes, you come up with some awesome things when you start playing around with your sort of still lifes and your indoor things. I remember that one you did a long time ago in the kitchen with the flour just tumbling down on the backlight. You make some really great things, and I just found this to be really funny. You know, these road workers digging up the rock salt, the seasoning. I just think it's a smashing picture, and so very well executed again. Work you put into making that happen. Getting the light in the right place as well. You know, it's kind of, you know, late morning or early afternoon, and these guys are out working in the sunshine, mining the rock salt. I just think it is really fun. Nice one. Jane Kilbride, another of our regulars, Be in the Sunshine. You know, great use of focal length and depth of field, and you captured a big cuddly bumblebee just sort of sitting there. And I totally get it. I did read what you said, you know, busy bee. Was it you said sleeping on a crocus? That was it. And do you know what? When you said it, I sort of get it. It does look like it's having a nap, doesn't it? And maybe it is. It's a bit chilly for bees at the moment. It's a beautifully captured picture. I love the colours. I like the way. Look how carefully this is composed, by the way. If you're wondering it, because this isn't just a picture of a bee. I should do this more with some of the other pictures. Forgive me. Let's just analyse this for a minute. Look at all those flowers, all those crocuses going on in that shot. None of them are cropped off halfway through the frame, are they? This is about paying attention to the whole picture, not just the subject. It's so easy to look at the bee and go, it's a picture of a bee, and then forget to look all the way around the edge of the viewfinder and just make sure there aren't any sort of messy edges, things that are sort of not quite cut off. How do you adjust that? You move your body backwards and forwards a bit. Choreography of composition. I think a lot of you have been on that webinar with me. Changing the focal length, adjusting the focal length, moving your body. This is the composition thing. I am going to flick back because I'm a little bit ahead of time. Not much, but a bit. But you know, again, if we come back here to Chris's shot, look how carefully that is composed. Look where everything is positioned. The camera's just right. The angle of the rays. We've got that bowl of a big oak tree up in the top left-hand corner. It's just sitting there and it's sort of anchoring the shot. The positioning, those trees on the right are sort of balancing out the grassy bank on the left. The light is coming from behind. Remember to look at the whole shot. It's not just a lane and oh look, light rays. It's the entirety. Photography is a holistic thing. We do have to look at all of it and pay attention to the whole thing. Great shot, Jane. I think it's really beautifully done. Very carefully composed. There was the composition which totally drew me to this one of Ben Jordan's as well. Ben, I love the way you've just got this boom. This is spot colour that works, I suppose. And I love your boldness in putting it smack in the middle of the picture, because it does really pop. I like the way those twigs and bits of sort of tree are sort of framing it, and then you've got this sudden little burst of colour right in the middle, and I totally get season. It's like that bush, that tree, what did you say is a rhododendron or something, a magnolia, is kind of like gone, I can't wait, I'm just going to do it, you know, and burst into flower. That's what I get from it. I do like it a lot. I think it would have. I think if you could have had, if you had got a little shaft of light happening somewhere, it would have helped. But nonetheless, even in that flat light, to me, it still works, and I totally get season from it, which I think is absolutely great. Annette, another one of our regulars. Come on, you guys who are not doing this, get stuck in. Let's knock some of these regulars back a bit. I want to see some more of other people's work too. Love you regulars as I do. Come on. There's 3,500 of you in this group. Get stuck in. Come and participate. I totally get it. It's past its date, isn't it? It's kind of, it's gone beyond the season. Beautiful light you got there, Annette. I had to shout it out again. Come on, guys. This is what I mean. You people who are not participating, I'm bored of bringing up all my old friends all the time. Come on, get stuck in there. I can't start talking about other people's pictures unless you start getting stuck in. You don't have to win things. You don't have to be in the shortlist shout-outs. I just want to see some new stuff coming in as well. Because also it'll push all our regulars that little bit harder. Good for everybody. Annette, I love your light. We know you're accomplished. We know you're good at this stuff. It is a beautiful shot with a lovely bit of light tumbling down it, and I totally get that season thing. Dean Minette. You know, again, you're another one who's really good at this. That you know, lovely bit of light on that fresh new growth, that lovely new little delicate bud popping out of its twig. The brightness in the corner sort of correlates to the way the light is landing on the bud. If you look carefully at the light on that bud, you can see that light is sort of coming from behind. And the way Dean has incorporated that bright bit in the corner, it works, it correlates, because, and it's not too bright either, because it could be easy to have too bright a bit and then it would take away from the bud, but the two are nicely imbalanced. This is again all part of composing the picture, remembering not just to look at the bud, but to look at the whole picture. I just think it works really nicely. I thought this was good fun too. Nice one, Christopher Harrison. It's Easter season. Spring is upon us. And I just think it's such good fun. Look at the work you put into making that little picture happen. It's technically well executed. Great use of focal length to sort of keep the field of view fairly narrow and the depth of field fairly small, so that we're looking at those little Easter chicks with their glasses sitting in those eggshells and a couple of little bits of chocolate. It's just great fun, you know? It's a cute, funny, great little picture. We're going to go in the other direction now. Mary Rosman. This isn't cute or fun. It's kind of dark and gloomy, but nonetheless, I totally get season from it. It feels like being in Iceland. It really does. You know, when it's sort of dark, twilight, gloomy. And the thing that I really like is these two little patches of warm yellow light struggling to come out of the gloom. I think it's a really great shot. I really do. I totally get that feeling. Nice one, Murray. Another beautiful piece of light coming in here from Diane Harper. You know, look at the way the light is just coming through those petals. Again, look how carefully composed it is. Great use of focal length, great use of depth of field to make us look in the place where you want us to. Those two little bits of green shoot in the foreground, they're great because they're not sharp. They're not really interfering. They're helping us feel that we're looking at it down low through the grasses, just like the insects and the animals would. I just think it's a great shot. You know, just look around the edge. The two flowers are nicely positioned in the viewfinder. That is what composition is all about. This is one that I kind of really liked as well, from Dang Faisal Dang Muda. Because it gives me a feeling it's a changing season in a completely different country. It's the season of the full moon. And what I really, really like is how you've got that little Honda moped or Suzuki, whatever it is, just sitting in that light path. This is, you know, maybe it touches me because it's a scene I've seen many times when I've been out in Asia. I think it's a well put together picture. I like the clouds in the corner, the darkness of it, that full moon going on, the palm trees sort of blowing in a warm night breeze. And if you've ever spent much time in Asia, then everybody has got one of these little mopeds. Stop it! Everyone's got one of these little mopeds. And, you know, it's the day-to-day transport. Did you know that most of the motorcyclist industry is supported with little bikes like this out in Asia? It's not these things, you know, that I ride and we have in Europe. It's these things. It's life. But I think you've captured the season of a full moon really beautifully there. I totally get that feeling of a warm evening. We've got another from Hervé. I think this is really, really nicely done. That was it. This was something else which I was intrigued by, because I looked at it and just thought I really love that soft sort of foreground, simple colours, nice light on that flower head, on that daffodil, little hints of blue happening too. I'm guessing you shot this from below the daffodil head, and that is kind of all part of looking at things differently, thinking about the composition. Look how that daffodil head is sort of coming up. I'm guessing you kind of twisted the camera. I don't know if you're here. I think there's lovely, lovely things going on. But look at that bottom left corner where the stalk is disappearing. See how it's kind of going, it's fading into the clouds, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? But also, if you have a little look at Hervé's comments, I have to learn to edit. Instead, I used bubble wrap. Do you remember a video I did a long time ago with Simon Taplin, where he was showing us about putting glasses and holding things close to the front of the lens? I think it's called nonsense technique. Who was asking? Russ was saying bubble wrap, how? No, I would say not so much background, foreground. So when you put something really close to the lens, so close that the camera can't focus on it, depending what it is, particularly if it's something translucent and pale like bubble wrap, you kind of get this look, this kind of blurry thing going on in the foreground, and you can use it to frame stuff up. It's a really subtle, gentle, easy sort of a technique. Go and have a play with it. Just try holding things really close. You know, if that's the lens of your camera here, and you're photographing something that's over there, you get some bubble wrap or an empty glass or something, and just start to sort of introduce it quite close to the edge of the lens and sort of shoot past it. You can get this great soft sort of focus effect in the foreground. Another great shot, so simple, very much a season. Emma Port, you again. You're going to be overtaking your husband soon, aren't you? Maybe you have, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But again, you know, it's just so simple, two simple colours, and what could be more spring-like than the blossom that we see starting to appear on the trees at this time of year. Good one, Steve's Outdoors. Vaseline on the lens works too. Yeah, you can do that. I just, I don't want to clean it. I hate cleaning things. I just want to take pictures. But yeah, you can. That's how they used to do soft focus filters in the old portraits. Vaseline on the lens. Yeah, lovely shot, Emma. It's so simple. I like the way you've composed it. Obviously, technically, spot on. Nice light coming through those springtime blossoms against that blue sky. We're looking forward to more blue skies. I love this one, Stephen West, and I totally get it. It's like it's gone beyond its season, isn't it? This house that's sort of falling apart, you know, this abandoned building, I think is great fun. I think it's I like the way you've used a very wide angle lens and allowed that convergence to happen as we look up to the deteriorating season. It's ceiling. It is well past its season. Now, I'm not sure if I'm mistaken or not, but I just can't help but think that is our very own Mel Port standing in that picture. I know he likes an abandoned building. Are you two mates? Is that your husband? in the back of that picture there, Emma. I think it's a great shot. I like the light. Look how the light is kind of keeping us at one end of the picture. It is Melport, thought it was. Sean, yeah, I would say it is. Is it seasonal? Again, how do you interpret season? It wasn't seasonal, the challenge was season. How could you say season? Well, I'd say this house is well seasoned, isn't it? It's falling apart, it's decrepit, it's starting to fall down. You see, this is all about the creative thinking part. It wasn't seasonal, it was season. How could you say season? Nice one, Sean. But yeah, all that decrepitness, look at the light. Look at the way we're using that human figure of Mel down at the far end. The way the light's coming through the doorway and all that crumbliness and those converging verticals are making us sort of go, look down the end of the hall at Mel and then kind of looking up at the way the ceiling's all collapsed and fallen in. I think it's a great shot and a clever interpretation. So that brings us to our runners-up. These are the ones that were left in that folder. And I went, oh, at last I've got through the agony of having to take people out of the folder. I really love this one, Rupert Selden. It's light that's doing that. I just really love it. And I totally get it. I know I grew up on a small holding out in the English countryside, so that is a scene that I have seen so many times in my childhood. But I just think it's a really great use of light. It's a frosty morning. The frost on the tyre of the Land Rover's spare wheel up on the bonnet. And the way you've got the light coming in through the back of the Land Rover and just sort of wrapping across that tyre and creating those shapes and textures within it. It's the shapes and textures in the tyre. It's a very simple picture. Maybe it's just me. To me it is evocative because it reminds me of my childhood. And I get it, my childhood's a bit different. Most people don't grow up on a little small holding out in the countryside. But I think the way you captured the light on that tyre, and you've also allowed for that really bright highlight. And I know I'm always saying the bright bit, your eye goes to the bright bit. It does. But in this case, we're going to the bright bit. We kind of realise we're looking through the windscreen of a vehicle because of the steering wheel and the wiper. And then it kind of, that light brings us back again to the way it's so beautifully wrapping over the tyre, bringing out that frostiness. I think it's a well-spotted picture. Steve James. Again. Come on, get stuck in, everybody. Let's kick Mr. James and his cohorts out. I didn't mean that. But let's give them some competition. What I loved with this is it's so spring-like, but the thing is, Steve, you've just done it in a different way by shooting this with a really wide-angle lens and getting so down low and looking up. It's a unique perspective. It's a different look. And to me, it just works. Great light, great bit of sunshine, all those little shadows and textures. I don't know if you're here, Steve. I'm just intrigued. I get the feeling that that was possibly taken with a phone because of how low you've managed to get. Phones are great for this sort of thing because, you know, they're so small and slim. You can slip them in underneath things like that. I have no problem with what camera an image is caught on. It's just interesting. Does the image work? Can't see anything from Steve, so maybe you're not here. Francis is throwing one back at me, but the flowers have been cut off on the edge. Just trying to read a couple of comments because I'm aware I haven't been answering or asking you guys so many questions. That's you, Steve, is it? Sergeant Milko. Good name. Are you a milkman? It was taken with a DSLR. That's quite accomplished to get it down and that low and to find it. Yes, I'm going to address Russ's comment. Yes, but the flowers are cut off in the corner. I get it. I would love it if they weren't. I would love it if they weren't. but they are. But nonetheless, I still feel this image, it stands alone because it is a unique point of view. Close-ups with wide-angle lenses, I think, are just so much more interesting because they have this great feeling of intimacy. Well done, Steve. Here we have a very classic bit of seasoning going on from Moira Smith, but I just love the way it's done. Sorry, Russ, yes, I know the chips are cut off on the left, and funny enough, that was my only critique, even though I love this image enough that I still kept coming back to it. My coaching would be I'd rather that chip wasn't cut off. It's just me, I know. But what I really like is just the movement in the salt. We got some chips. The way we haven't got the whole bowl, it's just the right amount. We got some nice light. I love what's going on the table in the background with the other seasonings, the little bit of spilt salt on the table. But most of all, it's those fingers and that little bit of movement as the salt is just falling through the fingers. I think it's a really well done picture, Moira. Congratulations. I just really like it, and I hope everybody else does too. And now we are coming to Cornell, which I just think this is another beautiful use of light and colour. Very, very soft colours, very, very gentle. I love the way the light is hitting the flower and that leaf, but it's that blue just popping against those sort of muted yellowy pinky reds that are going on in those autumnal leaves. It's a real feeling of new growth, of rebirth, of the season coming out. I just think it's a very beautiful, very simple, very delicate picture. Obviously technically perfect, nicely composed. I like the relationship between the light on the leaf and the light on the flower. I really do think it's great. Do you remember right at the start of this PLD, I said, and I've been banging on about it a lot, saying, come on, I want to see more of you joining in. There are so many people who sit on the sidelines and watch. Join in, because you don't know if you don't go. You don't know what will happen. All I do know is that if you join in, you will grow your skills as a photographer just from listening to the awesome people within this group who are all generously giving feedback and supporting. And I saw comments earlier on saying, somebody said, oh, thank you ever so much for your support in suggesting how I do this picture, because I think you're in the shortlist shout-outs. Forgive me, I don't read fast enough to be able to capture it. But I really do mean this. If you're not joining in, please, please, please join in. Get off that sofa and get onto the pitch and start joining in. Because Andy Watson just put in his first submission that he's never entered a competition before, and immediately he totally grabbed my attention. And you know, I just think it's a great picture, which says season. Look at the shape of the ice. You can see how that ice is not sharp. That says it's beginning to melt. Something is changing. There's a change in the season. Look at the colour, that blue cold. It's still cold. And the shapes of those little bits of ice and the water underneath. Love the way you've composed it, Andy, with those little jaggedy things going on, and it sort of runs diagonally across the picture. I think it's a great interpretation of season, of a change of a season. We're going out of winter and into spring. And your comment was, finally worked up the nerve to enter a contest. Good on you, mate. Good on you. Now I'm talking to all of those who are not joining in. Get stuck in. Come and join in with this stuff. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you might not get into the shout outs, and you might not. And I might say, look, I think you could do better. I'm only doing it to try and help you grow. And if you want to grow your skills, you know what to do. Get stuck in and take pictures. And if you're not sure how to do that, go check out my online courses, the Ultimate Beginners course, the 7 building blocks. Lots of you guys on here have said they're really great and they do a great job. I don't need to say more. Just get stuck in. Because I want you to take great pictures too. I want you to feel proud. I want you to feel happy. Ada just said, I ask again, how do you submit pictures? Go to the description area below, Ada, there is a link to the photography lockdown page, or PLD challenges. It's in the description below. Click that. It will take you to a page of my website, and on there is all the information you need. You go to a Facebook group, you submit pictures into there. It's that's all there is to it. I can't post a link on the video itself, but if you go into the description area, all the information, all the links you need are there. Please pop in. Yeah, so, and that takes us on to, sorry Ada, if you don't have Facebook, we use Facebook because Facebook is just easy, it's convenient, it's free, and most people do have it. To build that kind of functionality into my own website would cost many tens of thousands of pounds, and sorry, I don't have it. You can always get a Facebook account and just use it for this. You don't have to do other things. Anyway, let's have a look, because our winner this time, the one which I kept coming back to over and over again, was Randy Weatherly. I just really loved your ski season here. I think you really caught a feeling of a ski season. I love that big wintry sun going on and the light cascading down the hill, which is bringing that powdery snow just to life. The shapes you've got as it kind of holds together on either side, the trees. I just think it's really nicely done. You've used a longer lens by the look of it, and this has sort of helped compress it and make that sun really, really big in the sky. That shadow coming towards us, and the position of the skier's body. You've kind of brought everything together, I think, really, really well. You've captured the moment of balance, of fun, of, I think actually it's a snowboarder rather than a skier, but either way. I think it's a great shot. Congratulations, Wendy. Sorry, Randy, forgive me. I'm most awfully tired. I was up at 5 and it's now 8:30. Great shot. Congratulations to everybody. Thank you, everybody who joined in, everybody who submitted pictures, whether you won a place or a shout out, whether you got critiqued and pushed and I was a bit mean to you, or whether you didn't even get a shout out, but you still did it because you love your photography, you want to grow it. And there were so many pictures besides these which I would have loved to have talked about. One last time I say to you people who are not joining in, please, please, please come and join in. It's what it's all about. It's what it's here for. There's no point sitting on the sidelines. Now, I need to talk to you about our next guest speaker. He is a really, really lovely, cool guy called Will Burrard-Lucas. Will, I met last year. He totally blew me away actually, because I was looking at this astonishing exhibition of his work at Exposure, and then he walked up and he goes, "Mike Browne, I've been watching you on YouTube for ages." And I'm like, I got the old, wow. This man's exhibiting some awesome stuff. Will mostly concentrates on his own book projects. He does partner with conservation organisations, and he is also a Sony ambassador. He's going to come and talk to us about his work in general, but also about his new book, The Black Leopard. This is just some of the sort of work that he does out in Africa. He does a lot of animal portraiture, and as you can see, he loves the intimacy of a wide-angle lens. Look at this stuff. You've got to admit, it is breathtaking. Will really is a world-class wildlife photographer. Will you look at this stuff? He's going to talk to us about what he does, how he does it, some of his feelings and thoughts. Will's a clever guy. He does some awesome stuff. You have a popular meerkat at the moment. He did a lot of work with meerkats. But he's mostly going to talk to us about his most recent project and book, which is called The Black Leopard. He spent a lot of time out in Africa working on this, Africa's black leopard. And I think you'll agree this is an incredible night photograph of a black leopard. And again, look at the intimacy that is in this shot. He is a really cool guy. He's a really, really lovely, gentle person. There is a link to his website in the description area below if you would like to go and have a little look at his stuff. But Will is going to give us a talk at the next PLD challenge, which will be going live shortly. Those of you who are subscribed to the newsletter, you will of course be getting an email with, you know, an update as to what we've been doing in this session, and a link to the next challenge and all that good stuff. Otherwise, of course, it will be on the group. I also just want to ask briefly, I've been talking to quite a lot of pretty exciting photographers. Do you enjoy having some of these guest people along? I think they're fascinating. Really, it's a question. Please, what do you think? Because, you know, I can talk to them. It sometimes takes a little bit of doing to get some of these guys on board. You know, they're busy. They're moving around all over the world. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to know quite a lot of them. Okay, that's cool. I think that's quite a resounding yes. You like having some of these people come along. So that's cool. Because obviously I don't want to spend too much time hassling them and going, hey, will you come and do us a talk? Will you come and do us a talk? If you lot sort of switch off a bit. But that's really good to know. Thank you. Have the guest on, Glenn, yeah, having the guest on a separate thing, we're not even getting enough in the way of donations to support PLD as it is. I'm sorry, guys, but we are not. It is now emptying my pocket, and to do more work to set up another set of videos and another thing just isn't going to happen. I'm really sorry, it just isn't. I think we're down to about 8% of people in PLD who are contributing to keep it going at the moment. And it's a struggle. I don't want to pull the plug on it, but the reality is, it is a struggle. Forgive me, I didn't want to burst into one of those, but it's a fact. It's just the truth. Anyway, that's kind of you, Emma Rawls. That's great. Emma was just saying she didn't mind donating a bit more if we can get some guest speakers. It takes a lot more time than many people realise. I know, you know, you kind of see, well, I just come and sat down here and talked to a computer for an hour and a half. True, but I spent 10 hours preparing this. I am going to show you my screen. I'm going to show you what you can't see. This is what I am looking at on my screen. This is what I'm doing right now, going through different pictures and things like that. I have to sort of flick through, I have to mix the different images and the different things together in order to show you what is going on. Now, it takes quite a lot of time to put these presentations together, to build that, and then make it all connect and link up with YouTube and all the rest of it, as well as the judging, thinking what I'm going to say, making some notes and all the rest of it. Bear in mind my commercial photography rate is £120 an hour, so that basically says that in 10 hours sitting behind there doing PLD, I should be charging £1,200. We're not even getting that in donations per month right now, so things are struggling a bit. And, you know, I just ask that if you can afford it, then please, £3 a month, the cost of a takeaway coffee, can help keep this thing going and maybe even grow it. Anyway, I wish you well. I love you all lots. I think you're an amazing bunch of people. And I had better disappear and go and put the next challenge live for you so that you've got something to keep you occupied. Be well, be happy. Thank you again for being who you are and for joining in. Please, 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 if you can support other members of the group who are not joining in to get stuck in and join in, to do some photography, to grow their skills, please, please see if you can persuade them. I wish you well, and I look forward to seeing you next time.